ever broke into my house and stole my drugs.
911 what?
A fun, unique podcast taking you behind the badge. Unbelievable stories exposing the day in the life of a first responder. 911 is made possible by Carlos Bail Bonding, Eric Buchanan and Associates, and Freedom Venture Properties. Now here's your host, DeMarlon Dean.
Welcome to 911 What? Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us again on another episode of 911 What? And today I've got an old friend of mine that will be joining us. I've got Officer Mark Easley, and he has some stories for us. I've been reading through some of the bio. Of course, some of these stories I was actually on the force when they happened, so we're in for a treat today. Mark has served 27 years on the Chattanooga Police Department. That was the police department that I served on back in the day. He's been an EOD officer. We'll talk a little about that. He's been SRO, school resource officer. And that's in the news a lot nowadays all across the country, as well as he was on the SWAT. So he's done a little bit of everything. So we'll take a quick break and hear from our sponsor, but we'll be right back to hear from Officer Mark Easley.
Listen up, friends. Do you or someone that you know have disability insurance? I mean, the insurance that you buy through your employer in case you have an injury or an illness that prevents you from doing your job. And if you do have that insurance, good for you. Hopefully you'll never have to use it. But know this, if you do have an injury or illness and it prevents you from doing your job and you file that claim, the insurance company is going to do everything they can to try to deny that claim. And if you find yourself in that position, you need to call Eric Buchanan and Associates. That's right, Eric Buchanan and Associates, and put them to work for you. They will go to bat and fight to get you the benefits that you've paid for and that you deserve. You can call them at 877-634-2506. Again, that's 877-634-2506. Or you can find them online at buchanandisability.com. That's buchanandisability.com. Be sure and call those guys, Eric Buchanan and Associates. You won't be disappointed.
All right, welcome back. Mark, man, how in the world are you doing?
Brother, I am doing great. Life's treating me good. I'm very blessed. Very blessed.
It is so good to see you. It's been a long time since I've seen you. So if you don't mind, introduce yourself to our listeners and tell us what's going on with you now.
Sure. I'm Mark Easley. I'm born and raised Chattanooga, Tennessee, and worked with Chattanooga starting in about 1984. Retired in 2011. Working now, after I retired from the police department, started teaching college full-time, and I am now the program director for the criminal justice program at Cleveland State Community College.
Very cool. How do you like teaching?
Man, I love it. I love it. It's a lot of fun. Yeah.
Good. Molding those young minds of mush, as I think it was Rush Limbaugh that used to say that. So be sure to teach them good stuff.
If they'll believe it, I'll teach it. We'll go that way, man. They don't know any better.
So you started you said 84?
I did.
84. So by the time I started, I actually started in, I went through the academy in 92. So gosh, you've been on 8 years. Third of your career was almost over before I even started. Man, you're old.
No, yeah, we made fun of you back then. Yeah, we really
did. Something's never changed. I think people still make fun of me.
Yeah, well, I'm with you. You just call me old, so you had it coming.
All right, so tell us why you got into policing.
DeMarlon, I guess I was a weird kid. When we played cops and robbers, I wanted to be the cop. Mm-hmm. And I grew up watching Adam 12 and Dragnet and Barney Miller and, all the shows where the cops were the good guys.
Yeah.
And I never wanted to do anything else. I mean, I can literally remember 7th, 8th grade filling out those little information sheets about what do you want to be when you get big. And
yeah.
I always wanted to be a cop, and the dream came true.
That's awesome. Well, as I look through this, we'll start with some of the funny stuff. We talked a little bit before we set up the actual show, and I'll kind of set up this first one a little bit because I didn't believe it. I didn't hear about this one when I was on the force, but it is funny. You got a call about an Indian?
You would go there right off.
Yeah, we're going to go there right off the bat.
Yeah,
and just for those that don't know, Chattanooga, obviously Chattanooga is an Indian name, but this part of the country, obviously Cherokee Indians, Trail of Tears started here. So there's a lot of Indian heritage around here, but I don't think it was the Indians that you actually encountered with. So let us go ahead and tell us about that.
Well, I was working midnight shift, and I was down on the south end of Chattanooga and down around Piney Woods. And we get a call of a suspicious person in these people's front yard. And you gotta understand, it's 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, something like that. So here I am, all young and eager, and I ran down there as fast as I could get there. And when I got there, my headlights would just barely reach to the yard. And I got out of my car, that old cop swagger you got when you're 22, yes. 23. You remember that.
Yes.
And it got took away from me really quick on that call because I was looking and my headlights were barely on the yard and I could see a guy moving around this tree. And I looked and I said, that's an Indian.
In Piney Woods, which is a predominantly black part of town at the time anyway.
Well, he had one of these big Plains Indian headdresses like you'd see in the Custer movies and stuff. And
oh, my goodness.
Beaded vest, but he had on blue jean shorts and those big high leather moccasin boots. And I thought, Lord, what have I got myself into? And I was looking at him, and I guess just in awe that there's an Indian in Piney Woods at 2 in the morning. And before I knew it, he threw a spear at me.
A spear?
A spear. He had made a spear out of some kind of piece of metal and a stick, and it lodged in my windshield. I thought, oh, Lord, what have I done? And I could reach on my belt, and I found everything but my gun, and I couldn't find it. And he threw another one, and it hit my driver's door, and I grabbed the radio, and I started yelling, Adam 8, there's an Indian out here. He's throwing spears at me.
Yeah, well, that sounds like a joke coming a mile away.
Yeah. And the officers didn't believe me. And I mean, literally, the radio was keying up and guys were going, woo, woo, woo. I'm yelling, I'm not kidding. He's throwing spears at me. And somebody got on the radio, I don't remember who it was, and said, are you serious? I remember going, gee, Dad, who would make this up? Get in here. And the man pulls out his homemade tomahawk, and here he come. And I thought, oh, no, this is it. And so we carried those old 357 Magnums back in. When you shot them, it looked like a dragon shooting fire out of the end of you went deaf and blind at the same time if you fired it in the dark. And so I shot it at him, and I missed him, of course. I couldn't stand on the beach and shoot into the ocean with that thing. And
that's good to know.
But it hit the tree beside him, and when it did, the bark just exploded all over, and the bark hit him in the face. And so he laid down and started doing his song of death. I just remember another officer had to run up there and handcuff him because I couldn't move. I was just paralyzed.
I bet from the fear and everything, terror, and probably laughing.
Well, the people on the porch were laughing until I fired that round. They could not believe they were watching literally a live cowboy and Indian show out there in their front yard. And
man, so he chunked 2 spears at you and then came at you with a tomahawk.
Yeah, it's kind of one of them homemade Ace Hardware hatchets, but he had formed it into look like something on the front of an Atlanta Braves uniform.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, it went down as one of the funniest ones. Of course, you can imagine, you were there. You know what the officers did to me for months after that. Oh, yeah. And
wow. Well, what else? I mean, we started off with the good stuff right off the bat, but I know you've got plenty of funny stories in 27 years on law enforcement. What else comes to the top of your mind when you think of funny stuff?
The funniest thing I ever did, and I tell my students at college about this all the time. If I get a little long-winded, just cut me off. But we used to there was a lady that lived down on Huffacre Place down when the Macaulay homes were still there. Mm-hmm. And her name was Queen, and bless her heart, she had one arm and one leg and one eye. I'm not joking. She was the sweetest lady that ever lived. Well, once, sometimes twice a week, she would call in and ask if myself or another officer were working. And if the dispatcher said yes, she would say, well, I've got a prowler in my backyard. You need to send them down here right now. So, of course, the dispatcher would send us over there. And, of course, we get there. I think Queen thought we were 10 years old because there was never a prowler. But she would have made the biggest homemade chocolate chip cookies you've ever seen in your life. They were the size of a dinner plate.
Oh, my goodness.
And she'd pour the biggest glass of milk you've ever seen in your life. And she expected you to sit down and have milk and cookies with her at midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. And, of course, we always did. And we just loved Queen to death. Well, later, this went on for several months. Well, one night, the dispatcher put out the alert tone, and you remember that when the radio go beep, and then there was an emergency call, and they put out Queen's address.
Oh, my goodness.
And they said, we've got a burglary in progress, and I'll never forget the dispatcher. She said, literally, after she said, Adam 7, Adam 8, start in. She said, Mark, I think it's real. And so we went tearing. I mean, we were running into parked cars and dumpsters, and we tore down clotheslines. Thank God it was late at night. So there was nobody on the street. I mean, literally, you think I'm joking tomorrow. There was fire coming out of brake shoes, and I mean, do you remember those old ratty police cars we drove back in the day?
Oh yeah, I was still driving it even when no one else was.
Oh yeah, I remember one had a stop sign was soldered to the floorboard for my floorboard. It really was. So. We get there, and I mean, smoke's bellowing out of cars, guns are drawn. We run up on her porch, and her first words to me were, "What took you so damn long?"
Oh, my goodness.
And you look back, and there's this swath of destruction behind all these police cars. And so got everybody else out there, and we're like, Queen, what's going on? And this was, I probably should have said this beginning, this was the night before Thanksgiving.
Okay.
Well, Queen had been shopping. And she had a house full of company coming the next day. And she handed me and another officer her brand new curtain rods and her brand new curtain and said, I want those hung up, and I'm not going to quit calling until you do. Well, you got to understand, Queen's in her 80s. What are you going to do? I mean, she's only got one arm. You're going to handcuff her?
You're going to hang up those curtains is what you're going to do.
We climb up on the ladder, and we're hanging curtain rods. Well, old supervisor come in. I'm going to say his name because everybody loved him to death. You remember Joe Reed?
I do not. He may have been before my time.
Well, old Lieutenant Reed come through the door, and he goes, what the hell's going on? I said, talk to her. And he looked over, and he saw her, and she goes, get out of here and leave them alone. He goes, well, y'all hurry up and get back to work.
So $20,000 in property damage to hang up some curtains.
Yeah, we took off gun belts and shirts and vests, and we climbed up on step ladders, and we hung curtains. And, of course, she's cooking the whole time. And, of course, we got our early Thanksgiving dinner as soon as we finished hanging curtains. And then, you know what happened. The next day, she invited us, and we actually went down and had Thanksgiving with her and her extended family. And I just love that call. I mean, because it was so much fun.
Yes.
Look, let's just be real about the way it is. The white officer working in the housing projects being invited to Thanksgiving dinner to sit down with the 84, 85-year-old lady.
Yes.
And the whole family knew who we were because she talked so much about us. And so we just had a ball.
That is awesome.
I love that call. That is probably my favorite of all of them.
That is awesome. Well, we'll slide from Queen to Suck Creek. Now, every city should have something called Suck Creek. I mean, that's just funny in itself that we have a river, creek, whatever you want to call it, called Suck Creek. But tell me about the Suck Creek light shooter.
Okay, now you got to go back a while. You know where the boat ramp is on Suck Creek Road?
Yes.
Yeah, if you're going toward the mountain, there's a huge, for the listeners that don't know, there's a big gravel boat ramp right on the Tennessee River. And back in the late 80s, early 90s, we are talking the middle of nowhere. Mm-hmm. And so these boys get out there on that boat ramp. Of course, they're drunker than a bicycle, and it's like Saturday night. Well, across the river, there was a light, and they saw this light, so they got a .22 rifle out, and they're going to shoot all the way across the Tennessee River and knock that light out.
Are you serious?
Yeah, well, they're so drunk, they're not hitting the light, but they're hitting everything around it. Well, they thought it was a street light. It wasn't. It was a porch light.
Oh, my God.
And they've got a family of 4 pinned down over there. They put 130 rounds through this house.
What?
They had a little semi-automatic 22 rifle, and they were just shooting as fast as they could. And when it would unload, the other one would take his turn. And this poor family's over there calling the police, begging for help. They're pinned down in their house because it's nighttime, and all they can see is the light. They can't even see there's a house.
My goodness.
Well, of course, you get the gun away from them, and they begged and pleaded, say, we're okay going to jail. I mean, these were big. They were two big old corn-fed boys.
Uh-huh.
And they were like, before we go to jail, can we finish seeing who shoots Zach? We got a $10 bet on this thing. And, this poor family is literally, they have pulled like their couch down on top of the kids to make sure the kids, I mean, nobody got hurt. It's the reason it's funny. But I think when they finished up, I want to say it was 137 rounds had hit their house and gone through windows, doors, hit the roof. And, I mean, there were cartridges all over the place. And, I mean, they were just as fast as they could load this thing. They were firing 20 rounds off at a time.
Only in the South.
And you're right. Only in Suck Creek, yeah. But what was funny was the light was still on. They ain't hit it
yet. So I'm putting the call out right now. If you've got a story crazier than that, you need to email me right now at 911podcast@gmail. That is crazy. Man.
I tell my students all the time, I don't know why you go to the zoo. The funny animals live out here with us. They didn't cost anything to watch them. So
absolutely. Well, let's go from the funny stuff to just dumb stuff. And I'm sure some of the dumbest criminals probably fall into to some of the funnier ones too. But I know you've listed a few on our thing, but I'll just on the questionnaire here, but I'll let you just tell us what you'd like to tell us, and what comes to your mind from the dumb folks.
Well, one of them I just told. I mean, you bless their hearts. You wonder, does it hurt to be that stupid? Does it hurt, or is it just like this comfortable lull in their world? But those guys would be in the top three. I'll give you two of them are pretty quick. This old boy, when the lottery first came to Tennessee, he got a job at a convenience store. Mm-hmm. And so his idea was he would go to work at a convenience store on third shift. Well, as soon as his relief or the person he relieved left, he brought his brother into the store, and they locked the door, and they pulled every single lottery ticket out of the lottery bin.
Oh, my goodness. Now,
give him credit for he was an honest kid. His idea was they were going to scratch off every single lottery ticket that the thing held. And they were going to win so much money that they were going to be able to pay for all the lottery tickets and be millionaires. Well, I hate the Tennessee lottery people might shut you down for this, but I got news for you. There ain't enough money in the display to pay for the tickets that are in the display. And so,
oh my goodness.
So when the manager got there at 6 o'clock the next morning, of course, she calls the police. And we get there, and there's just the floor has just got a big mound of scratched off tickets.
Oh, my.
And, of course, the manager's having a fit, and the poor old fella, he's trying to explain what he's done and that he's going to pay all the money back, which he owes tens of thousands of dollars.
Oh, I cannot imagine.
But I'll never forget, he looked up at me. He goes, Officer Easley? I go, yeah, Bubba. You think I'll get fired? Yes. There's a distinct possibility, young man, but I mean, I got to let that one go to somebody besides me. I'm just the one taking you to jail for your theft.
My job is to give you a ride. Somebody else is going to determine your future here. Man, so he scratched off all the tickets and he locked the doors and lost all the business in the meantime.
Oh, yeah. But here's the beauty of it. He didn't want people to be late for work because Wheeling Foundry was still open back then. Mm-hmm. So he left the gas pumps turned on. So people were pulling up and filling up all night long, not paying for it. Because he thought he was going to win so much money, he was going to pay for the gas and the lottery ticket. Well, the South End as well as I do. Hey, once word got around that there was free gas going on, They probably drained those pumps that night. I mean,
Oh my goodness, poor fella. So he had a huge heart, and it just cost him everything.
it did. I never went to court on it. I don't know if maybe the store just thought we don't want to admit we hired somebody that stupid or what.
Oh my goodness.
He, if you're going to ask, I don't know what happened to him. I really don't. And,
No.
It was crazy. It was
Man.
fun.
Well, that sounds like a good segue into we all like adult bookstore stories. So you've got a story about an adult bookstore burglar.
I don't know what you're talking about. You made that one up.
Nope. You ain't getting out of this one.
Oh, you're right. Okay. You got to imagine, and again, if you got younger listeners, they're not going to be able to quite imagine what I'm talking about. But when I first started, South Market Street from M.L. King Boulevard South, it was not good, and so the whole campus around the Choo was exactly like it is today, but everything around the Choo, it was pretty rough. Mm-hmm. And most people don't know that across the street from the Choo was a liquor store, and attached to the liquor store was an adult bookstore.
Let me pause. Have you pause right there. The Choo is the Chattanooga Choo, which is the historic hotel here in town that the song, the Chattanooga Choo, was kind of written after the General. I think the train was actually called the General, or that was used back in the Civil War, and the South stole it from the North, and the North stole it back, and vice versa. But anyway, it was a pivotal time during the Civil War. But the Chattanooga Choo has to do with this place that you're using that as a reference, the Chattanooga Choo Hotel.
It is, and the reason I did it, the Grand Station is across the street from this adult bookstore, so you can imagine this very elite, beautiful hotel, museum type area, restaurants, and then all around it it's where the prostitutes hung out. There was a old hotel across the street that was $5 a night. I'm not exaggerating, and it wasn't worth that. Yeah, and so there was an adult bookstore there. Well, there was a gravel lot beside the bookstore. And one night, and I'm going to say his name because I loved him. I still love him with all my heart. Dan Moody. I don't know if you remember Dan.
Oh, yeah, I remember Moody.
Dan was sitting there beside me, and it's like 5 a.m. We're just wanting the shift to end. It's really kind of been an uneventful night. And Dan and I, cops they'll pull right up next to each other to sit there and talk. And we kept hearing something go, help. And we look around, help. Okay, it's got to be another cop messing with us, So we just sit there. We're going to try to act like we don't hear it and be cool. Help. It's like, where the hell? And Dan finally looks through my car window, and the adult bookstore, one side of it faces just a solid brick wall. And Dan noticed that there was a hole in the wall where it used to be a wall air conditioner. And he's looking, and in a minute, a head pops up in the hole. Help! Well, Genius has piled up a bunch of boxes, and he's got up there and he's pushed the air conditioner into the building. And he went in the building, but he didn't take any boxes with him, so he couldn't get out.
So he broke in and can't get out.
And the adult bookstore's got, big metal doors and gates on the front and back. He can't get out. He doesn't know who's outside, but he can hear voices and car engines. So he's jumping up as high as he can, yelling, help! And he doesn't know there's two uniformed Chattanooga cops sitting out there.
Oh, my goodness.
So, back in those days, Chattanooga had one dog. Mm-hmm. They had one German Shepherd. And so we called for the dog, and we got over and we announced who we are, told the guy to come out, and when we did, he threw a video at us. Well, they still have it. No, yeah, we used it for, turn it into property, of course. And so they put the dog in there. And so he runs into one of those, any of you who won't admit, and then, of course, you're lying, that if you're listening to 911, you've been in an adult bookstore. And
Hey, don't be besmirching my listeners.
I'm not besmirching, I'm exposing. And so they have those little viewing booths, and he's in that booth, and that dog's got him pinned in the booth. And God is my witness. We get in that building, we're yelling, come out, and he announces, and I quote, hold on a minute, I put a quarter in the machine, it's almost over. He has broke in. He's got a German Shepherd the size of a dadgum horse trying to chew through the door to eat him alive. And he reached in his pocket and pulled out a quarter and put it into an adult video so he could watch one more porn video before he went to jail.
Golly.
And we let him. I was like, he ain't going nowhere. He might as well be happy. So he finished watching his video, and I don't know what else he did, but
Oh my goodness.
at that point, you're just like, are you done? Yeah, I'm done.
Oh my
So,
goodness.
needless to he went to jail. Nobody got hurt, and you couldn't help but laugh. I mean, to Marlon, you couldn't help it. Just all the way out to the car, you're just like, I'm not even mad at you. This is priceless.
That is so crazy. Oh my goodness. Well, that's a great place for us to take a break. And when we come back, let's talk a little bit about EOD, what that even is, SWAT team, and how much you enjoy being an SRO. I'm not even sure how long you were doing it, but I know most of the officers that do that really enjoy that job. And we'll talk about that a little bit. And then we'll talk about how good of a shot you are or are not. So we'll take a break. We'll hear from our sponsors, and we'll be right back.
Now, if you've listened to my podcast much at all, you'll know that one of the things I try to impress upon you is if you find your situation being arrested by the police, do not fight. Just go ahead and take the ride and then call Carlos bail bonding to get you out. You're not going to win on the side of the road. So go ahead, take the ride, get bailed out, and go fight your day in court. Call Carlos bail bonding at 423-475-6383. Again, that's 423-475-6383. Or you can look them up online and see all the amazing things his clients have been saying about him at bailbondsmanchattanooga.com. That's bailbondsmanchattanooga.com. Carlos bail bonding. Don't fight on the side of the road. Take your ride, call Carlos, and let him get you out.
All right, welcome back to 911 What? Our guest today is retired Officer Mark Easley of the Chattanooga Police Department. And boy, we've talked about some funny stuff. We've had it all. So we're going to switch gears just a little bit and talk about maybe your time. How long were you a SWAT officer? Everybody likes to talk to a SWAT.
13 years.
13 years. I was watching, listening to some program, and they were saying I think it was Sean Larkin from Live PD. He's got a podcast called Cocktails and Cocktails, and he was saying the average tenure for a SWAT officer is about 7 to 8 years because it is so demanding. So to go 13 years, that's pretty incredible. What can you tell us about your experience there?
It was a lot of fun. We were, and as far as I know, they're a part-time SWAT team. In other words, they have full-time duties, and then when that flare goes up, they become SWAT officers and they kick in. It's a very, especially now, it's a very highly trained group. They're very good at what they do. They work hand in hand with negotiations. The whole idea is, if you can, contain them and talk them out of there, and let's all go home. And,
sure.
I really enjoyed it. You think of SWAT, you think everybody's this great shot, and you've already thrown me under the bus. So, I was the guy on the SWAT team that carried a shotgun. Everybody else had a neat, nifty rifle with all these scopes and stuff. And I had this big old damn, scattergun.
That's fun. Now, what was your position? I know everybody has their specialized tactic or whatever they do a lot of times. What were you typically doing or what was your typical position on the SWAT?
I handled explosives and chemicals. I was the guy that if they needed to shoot tear gas in or if they needed to deploy explosives, things like that, that was my job.
Ooh, you got to blow stuff up.
Oh, yeah, it was fun.
That is fun.
Oh,
that
yeah.
What was the coolest thing you got to blow up?
Wow. The coolest thing I ever blew up. I don't know if it was blowing it up, but I know what I did get to do one time. We got a call to Ray County.
Uh-huh.
And apparently this farmer had a bunch of dynamite that he used to blast stumps and stuff with. And he had stored all this dynamite in his barn. And, well, dynamite leaks. It's full of nitroglycerin. And so when the dynamite leaked, it leaked into the walls of the barn that it was around. And so basically you've got this whole barn that's ready to explode.
I did not know that.
Oh, yeah, it's a bad thing. You got nitroglycerin soaked into the wood, and the only way, or the way you get rid of dynamite is you set it on fire. And dynamite just burns. It just burns up. It's beautiful. It's the color blue that's behind you. The flame is just this brilliant blue.
Wow.
This guy had 11 cases of this stuff in his barn. And so we decided we're going to be really sharp and save everybody from this potential explosive. So we put all our diesel fuel. And, buddy, when we threw that flare on there, you got to remember, barn's full of hay and straw. And this beautiful Amish barn is up in flames in literally just a few seconds. And it was like, well, that's, and everybody's like, did you mean to do that? Oh, yeah. That's exactly what we wanted to do.
Control burn.
Yeah, control burn. There we go. And so, that was one of the ways you do things. Being an EOD, most of the stuff you got was, old war stuff. Maybe somebody might find a Civil War cannonball. Mm-hmm. Every once in a while, you did find that one bomb that some fool had made. And when he made it, he didn't know what to do with it. Mm-hmm. And never solved that problem. And so you would have to deal with those situations and take care of that. The calls just aren't that dramatic because they were so controlled.
Right.
You were in a contained place. There were some times there was a pucker factor, is this thing going to go off and when, and can I get behind you? So it was, I really enjoyed the time with EOD. It was a lot of good training. They sent us to Redstone Arsenal in Huntsville, Alabama. Okay, and the FBI and the Army actually trained us to do all this. So we were with actual Army bomb techs, FBI bomb techs. You got to meet a lot of cool people, do a lot of cool stuff. So
if you had to choose, I know you're not, you're out of it altogether, but if you had to choose to spend, to finish out your career and you either had to do SWAT or SRO, what would you choose?
I'd probably choose the SRO.
What about the beginning of your career? If
you're 5 years in? I'd have been on SWAT at the beginning of my career. Oh, yeah. When I started, I don't mind telling this, and there will be people that will fall out of their chair. I had a 4-year degree, and my starting salary was $13,985 a year.
Golly.
And I couldn't believe they paid me that much money to do that. I was just having the time of my life. I just thought it was the grandest thing in the world.
And when I started, let's see, if you started in 84, so I started 7-8 years later, but actually 7 years. I started in 91. I think I started at 18.9 or 18.3 or something like that is what it had gotten up to. And I couldn't believe that. I took a big pay cut to start that. And that was in the early 90s, $19,000, under $19,000 to be a police officer, to take on scary calls like we'll talk about now. Well, before we go to the scary calls, the SRO, how long were you in SRO?
Back and forth about 4 years.
Okay. Were you at the same school the entire time or multiple schools?
No, I worked at Chattanooga School of Arts and Sciences. I worked at Tyner and I worked at Ottawa. Were the three that I was the SRO supervisor for a year prior to that. So yeah, I actually did 4 years or 5 years.
You were at Ottawa?
Yeah, sure was.
Wow, I did not know that. I don't think I know that. That was my old stomping ground. That's my alma mater was Ottawa. I didn't realize they let anybody come up in there.
Oh, sure not. Yeah, they don't let anybody. Trust me, they don't let anybody.
Do you have any recall maybe any relationships that you made and you actually got to see the influence that you made on somebody, maybe somebody who's going down the wrong path, and through your relationship, you saw later on that they made some different choices and kind of got their life together?
Sure. I mean, absolutely. It was, both guys and girls. I think people forget a lot about, police work. The worst thing that ever happened to police work was they did away with the walking beat.
Mm-hmm.
Police work, the greatest part of it, if you'll do it, is about relationships.
Right.
And it's just about talking with people. And, I'm not going to name any names because,
No.
obviously, there were countless people. I mean, I've been retired from the police department now over 10 years. And I haven't been an SRO in 15 years, but I still get calls 2-3 times a week from people that I was their SRO, and they're still in their adulthood. We still get together and break bread and have fun and talk. And
that's awesome.
I'm around their children and their wives and husbands. And so, that was the best job in the police department.
That is awesome. And that's what I was getting to, the importance of having people like you in the schools. And I say that because, you have this push right now where even here locally where it's in jeopardy, and it's not because no one wants it. It's because of funding. And, you only have so much money and it has to go certain places. So hopefully things like that will continue, because I know the huge positive impact it has on people's lives long term. So that's really cool. I haven't met an SRO officer yet that didn't love it.
Oh, yeah. And if you don't mind me, give me just one more minute. What I always tried to explain to administrators was, the schools are simply a community within a community.
Mm-hmm.
And so if it's going on in the community, it's going on in the schools. If it's going on in the schools, it's going on in the community. And I'm going to tell you right now, there were times I worked that I was able to funnel more information to gang units, to drug units, to vice units, to auto theft, from things that students were hearing and doing,
mm-hmm.
than you could possibly imagine. But people think, no, you're up there playing with the kids, and that's just not it. If it's Ottawa,
mm-hmm.
if it's going on at Ottawa High School, it's going on in the Ottawa area. And if you will get relationships with those kids, you'll be amazed what you will learn is going on outside. I'm not talking about telling on mommy and daddy and stuff like that. I'm talking about some real crime.
Wow.
Because so often people commit this stuff in front of a kid and not even think about it. But
that's good stuff. Well, I'm glad you shared that with us.
That kid can hear and see.
Yes. Parents would do well to remember that, just in general, the things you say and do around your kids. They're paying attention even when you think they're not.
Oh, yeah.
So before we get to your superb shooting skills, what about this old lady with aliens?
Oh, wow. Wow. That's, I'm going to go lock my door before I even tell it. Yeah, that's one of those. That was right out of a Stephen King novel, or, you can't make this kind of stuff up, because, I don't know how else, nobody could have written it. I don't even think Stephen King could have gone there. We had a night. And you talk about a weird switch of luck. I was working. I worked the west side of Chattanooga, and I worked the south end for a long time. And this particular night, they moved me to Hickson, which is north of the river. For those that don't know, it's a very suburban area, neighborhoods. And it was raining so hard you couldn't see the street in front of you. It was that thunder, lightning, powers out all over the city.
Mm-hmm.
And they send me to a call of a woman in distress, and that's the only thing I got. And you pull up at this house. There's no lights because all the power's out, but you can see the flicker of one little light in the window.
Okay.
And turned out it was a candle. So again, try to even think of this Alfred Hitchcock moment in your life, And then you've got that long black raincoat on. In all the movies, this dude's about to get eaten or killed or something. And you got your flashlight. You walk up there, and I knock on the door. And this woman opens the door. And I swear, if you remember the little bitty lady on Poltergeist?
Yes.
This was her. She's 4'10", if that. She's got this Bride of Frankenstein hair sticking out. She's probably in the early 80s, and her eyes, I swear to God, they are blood red. And she looks at me, and I'm just looking at her thinking, what the hell? And she looks up, she goes, they're in the house.
Oh, my.
Who's in the house? She goes, they are. I said, who are they? She goes, the ones that come through the ceiling. Okay, here we go. So I go upstairs, we're in her kitchen. She goes, they ate all my food. And so I open her refrigerator, and it's full. And I said, ma'am, your refrigerator's full. She goes, no, that's their food. They ate all of mine. And so I'm thinking, okay, this is crazy. And I see more flickering from under a door down the hall. And I start down the door, and she's yelling, don't go in there, don't go in there. And I open the door, and this poor old man, bless his heart, he was about dead. And he's in the bathtub, and he's all covered up. And he's mumbling, don't let them get me, don't let them get me. And what it is, they both believe, and now understand, they believe, as we talk about mental health a little bit, they believe that these aliens come through the house at night. And so she has made her husband sleep in the bathtub. And what she's done is she's put a chair against the bathtub so she can put her feet against the door to keep the aliens out. Oh. And that's why she's so blood red now. Oh, my ass. I turn around, and as I turn around, all I see is the knife come down.
What?
And she gets me right at my vest, and she slit my vest completely open all the way down. She cut a bulletproof vest in half.
Oh, my goodness.
And I grabbed her, and the fight was on. And I'm telling you, Marla, I didn't lose that fight, but I was way behind. And
oh, my goodness.
It was all I could do. She didn't weigh 80 pounds if she's holding the cash register. I could not get that knife away from her. I got cut 4 or 5 times. My vest was gone. She pulled my badge off of my shirt and was sticking me in the side of the head with my own badge, yelling, you're one of them. You won't die. You won't.
Oh, my goodness.
And I don't know whether to get up and run away or what. I thought,
holy crap.
There's no way another officer's going to pull up here and a 4'10", 80-pound woman's run me out into the yard with a knife. And she was so sick, but she was so strong because, there's those saying, a fox runs for his dinner, the rabbit runs for his life. Yeah. And she thought she was fighting an alien. And she was going to keep that alien from hurting her husband. And when it was over, we had rolled down the same steps we walked up.
Oh, my goodness.
So I don't care what people say. When you've got one that's that unhinged, she's not feeling any pain. She's not hearing a word you're saying. And when I got her handcuffed, I remember just laying on the floor beside her because I was spent. And I'm in pretty good shape. And back then I was in real good shape. But that really woke me up to, it didn't matter who they were. Somebody can hurt you. Mm-hmm. Here was a lady in her late 70s, early 80s with a knife, and that knife wasn't a little lady knife. It was looked like something out of a Jason movie.
And it does not discriminate. How many times did you get stabbed?
Oh, with her, I just got my hands cut and, a little bit on my chest. She got me in the side. She stabbed me in the side of my head with my own badge like 6 times. But,
so that wasn't even the bad stabbing. Oh, my.
No, yeah, no. I was fine with her. That one, you're just like, can I go home?
Wow. So our listeners are probably thinking, wait a minute, you just got stabbed that many times and that wasn't even the bad one. So, oh, my goodness. So we've talked to a lot of officers and, we've asked officers if they've been involved in shootings, had to shoot suspects and whatnot. And of course, yes, they have. But Mark is, he's unique in that this is the first officer we've talked to that's been shot and stabbed. Now that I'm finding not just the one stabbing that I know about, but with a old lady afraid of aliens. But tell us about maybe the situation that Well, either one, the stabbing or the shooting or both. What led up to that and how that all happened? Because you really are lucky to be here. Talk about, being a police officer is a dangerous job. You represent that. You're just fortunate enough that you actually survived everything that you've been through.
Oh yeah, well, like I told you in the opening segment, I've been very blessed.
Yes.
I've been very blessed. We'll give the glory to the one who's kept me alive for whatever reason he's done it. It's only been through him, but yeah.
I think it's so that you can make it to the 9-1 What podcast. I'm claiming that God kept you here so you can be here on this show.
Well, don't tell me that, because that means I'm done.
Oh yeah, that's right. No, we're not done yet.
We need to keep going, okay?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm not hanging up. But, I was on patrol one night, and as a matter of fact, here we go. And I mean, your listeners, I'm going to use the name again. I was sitting next to my buddy Dan Moody talking, and for those of you who don't know, Dan passed away. But if there was ever the definition of a cop's cop, Dan Moody was that man. He knew how to talk to the public. He knew how to train young officers. If I could ever in my life hear somebody say you were like Dan Moody, I would feel like my career was successful. That's
awesome.
He was an amazing man. But anyway, I was talking to Dan. It was 3 a.m, 3:17 to be exact. And they put out a call of a guy, of shots being fired at this house. And the thing is, I didn't even get the call. They gave it to 2 other officers, but I was in the area, and I said, well, I'll ride over there. Mm-hmm. And when I pulled up, I could still hear the shots going off. And I got on the radio and told them Dan had followed me over. And when I got out of my car, everything was quiet. You're looking around in the dark. You don't see anything. And these 2 ladies came out on the front porch. And a woman said, you got to do something about his shooting. He's driving me crazy. And I'm like, who? And this couple had gone through a divorce, and they lived next door to each other.
That's not smart.
Welcome back to the South. And so there's literally a driveway that separated them. And this nut had been out drinking and partying all night. And so I'm standing there in the yard talking to his ex-wife, and all of a sudden I just hear the words, "Hey, pig." Mm. And I turned and looked, and he's standing on the porch with a 30-06 rifle. And he cut loose, and I mean, he chewed me up pretty good.
Really? With a 30-06?
Yeah, he got me 5 times.
And you're still here to talk about it.
Well, I'm still here to talk about it again.
Yeah, you got some work to do. That does not happen.
Yeah, you give that glory to the man who deserves it. It sure wasn't me, because you ought to have seen a fat kid trying to get behind a little dogwood tree out in the yard. Yeah, man, had all curled up and had a pretty good gunfight. He fired 11 rounds. I fired 17. I hit him. Mm-hmm. I was aiming at his chest, but I managed to take out his private parts. So, again, not the best shot in the world, but it worked.
It was effective. You're supposed to shoot for center mass, not center ass. That's the mass.
Well, okay, now picture ass, but he was facing me. So, yeah, he gave up after that.
I bet. Oh, my. And he's just drinking, and so you just became the target.
Yep.
That was alcohol.
Yep. And that's just how quick it happened. I mean, and what's funny about that, DeMarlin, is I don't remember saying it, but both of the ladies, when they gave their statement to the investigators and to Internal Affairs, because, anytime you shoot your gun, Internal Affairs has to investigate. So
absolutely.
I don't want anybody to think, oh, what jerks, they investigated him after he got shot. No.
That's standard procedure.
You shoot your gun, Internal Affairs is coming out. That's just the way it is. But they both told the Internal Affairs detective, who was Steve Parks, who later became the chief of police.
I remember.
They told him that I looked up at him and said, oh, hell, this is going to hurt.
Oh, man.
I don't remember saying it, but apparently I did. And, so you don't know what's going to happen. Yeah, that's how quick. And I think people that love to second guess the police, all of academia and all of the media that are out there, and they've got something to say. Of course, they've got it to say after the incident. They don't ever want to say it because they don't want to be there
Absolutely.
during the incident. Yeah, they want to, they want to Monday morning quarterback you later, and they don't realize that from noticing the gun to the first bullet hitting me, you're talking a second,
Yes.
if that. And so not a lot of time to react.
Yes, and I'd like to get someone on to talk about what actually happens when you're in that situation from the standpoint of, what your body does, just the whole physical aspects that happen, how you start getting tunnel vision. And that's why you don't even remember some of the things you said. It just all happens. It's one of those things where it happens so quickly, but it seems like it's happening so slowly at the same time. But do you remember or do you know how many times maybe you were hit before you even able to return fire?
I know that I was hit in the chest, the leg, and the arm before I could even do anything. And then I got hit in the chest the second time, and then the other one got me in the face. And,
so I'm assuming you had body armor on your vest.
I did. And luckily, very luckily, to be honest about the situation and not to make it grander than it was, you talk about a God thing. There was a chain link fence between me and him. And we do know that two of the bullets actually hit the fence and splintered, and then they hit me. So It really slowed down some of those bullet fragments. But what was wild was my surgeon told me I'm left-handed. And he asked me, he said, so you were able to shoot him right-handed? And I said, no, I had my gun in my left hand. He said, no, you didn't. And I said, yeah, really, I did. He goes, no, you don't understand. It was anatomically impossible for you to move your left arm. He said, your left arm did not have the parts to move, but yet I fired, reloaded, fired more, crawled around on the yard, and I used my left arm the whole time.
Really?
Yeah. If you remember Opie? Mike Hart?
No, I don't know him.
And Mike, actually, in the middle of all that, once I just kind of gave up the ghost because I was really hurting, Mike crawled up there in that yard. Fully exposed and drugged me out of that yard by himself. And Mike threw me into a ditch that was full of riprap, those big gray rocks. And I remember thinking, damn, I was better off out in the yard. But I'll never forget that. You will always remember, no matter what. I don't care what that man ever did in his life. I will always remember that he crawled up in that yard when everybody else was hunkering down and doing what you're supposed to do.
Sure,
take cover and not get hurt yourself. And he crawled up in that yard and he got me and drugged me to safety. I'll never forget that. I will love him forever for that.
Wow.
So,
I am so glad that you are here to tell the story.
Oh, yeah.
Golly. And then within 2 years, I don't know if the stabbing, was that before or after that?
It was afterwards. It was 2 years later. I was working actually the day after Thanksgiving. And down in the South End again, I pulled over a car that we knew the owner had warrants on him. And when I walked up to the car, the driver rears back and just punched me in the face and took off running. And there was a big foot pursuit. And we ran into this lady's house, and the whole crowd followed me in, and they got me down. And they broke a big lead crystal serving vase over my head. And then they picked up the pieces and just started stabbing me with it. I had 1,270 sutures. So it took 11 plastic surgeries to kind of put my face back together. So,
golly.
Yeah. But I held on to him. I never let go of the guy I was chasing. I was still hanging on to him when the backup finally got there. So, yeah.
Man.
God, I can't do nothing else, but I can hang on to him.
I'm hang on. Wow. I'm going to have to get you to come back because we're running out of time. But I will ask you this. What was we talk about all of these things, these in my opinion, some pretty heroic things that you went through. I know as an officer, you never really consider it anything other than surviving and reacting how you're trained. But I don't want to minimize what you've done and what you've gone through. Just the fact of being 27 years and surviving is incredible in itself. And me knowing you as a person, I think the world of you, and I'm hearing details about, stories that I heard rumors about. I just knew that, yeah, Mark, he's been through it. He's been shot. He's been stabbed. I didn't know these details. But one of the things that really got my attention is your proudest moment. I want to kind of end with that, if that's all right with you, is what, you got a lot of stuff to be proud of, but what was your proudest moment in 27 years on the police department?
Wow. It was an unfortunate moment, but, I was married to absolutely the love of my life. She was the greatest woman that ever lived. I mean, I hope everybody will forgive me for that, but, Pam was just an amazing human being, and she got sick. And, I was a sergeant at the time. I had made enough time as a sergeant. I was eligible to sit for the lieutenant's test. And Pam's illness took a turn for the worse, and she ended up being diagnosed with metastatic breast cancer. Mm-hmm. And we don't have any kids, and at the time we really didn't have, family here locally. She was from Chicago. My parents were kind of elderly. And so, of course, we're going through chemo, we're going through radiation and all this. And I'm on midnight shift as a supervisor, and I live in the north end of our county. And where I was patrolling, I was literally down on the Georgia line where I was a supervisor. And so I was trying to run home, back and forth home a couple of times a night, trying to check on her. It just wasn't working out. And Jimmy Dotson was the chief of police at the time. And I went through my chain and through the SWAT team commander and through the deputy chief, and was like, look, I cannot stay on nights. I have to, I've got to go to day shift. I cannot do this. It is mathematically impossible. I'm exhausted. I can't take care of her, and I'm not doing a good job at work. And I'll never forget, Jimmy Dotson told me, well, if I wanted to go to day shift, I had to give up my rank. And he said, I'll give you a day to think about it. And I said, I don't need to think about it. I remember I said, I stood up in front of Judge John Taylor, and I swore I would help take care of the city of Chattanooga. But I stood up in front of God, swore I'd take care of her.
Yes.
And something had to come second. And so I said, I'll accept the demotion and go back to, and so of course I was with her until she passed away. And after that, I just really had no interest in being promoted again. I thought, I'm very secure in myself, after making that decision. I would do it again tomorrow. I would do it again the next 1,000 days if I had to. If it meant being able to help take care of her during her illness. And that's probably not what people were expecting to hear, but yes, I want anybody out there that's going into this field to understand this is a job. It's not who you are. And this job will come to an end at some point. They'll either take it away from you or you will quit it.
Yes.
And don't let it become who you are. Let it become what you do. And as much as I loved it, I knew that day when he said, I'll give you a day to think about it. I thought, I don't
There's nothing to think about. This is
I don't
my
need
family.
a day. Yeah, there's nothing to think about. It's like eating, drinking, and breathing. You do it. You don't have to think about it. And
well, Mark, that's why I think the world of you. I mean, I did not know that, but that says a lot because this job does take a lot out of you, and you can't forget the things that are most important. Yes, you go every day to try to protect the city, but your family is what's most important. And that's why, you always do the things that you're taught to do because you want to make it back home to your family. And when I read that, I thought that was beautiful. And I wanted to give you an opportunity to share that. Any closing thoughts? Well, I'm going to wrap this up, but man, I have loved this so much. And anything else you'd like for any of us to know about you or the job or whatever before we sign off here?
Not so much about me. It's just the job is amazing. It is the greatest job you will ever have that will never be appreciated.
Yes.
If you're going into it to be appreciated, if you're going into it for medals or honors or rewards, you're going into it for the wrong reason. And if you're still wearing a badge out there, I'll tell you this. If you ever say the words, there's nothing we can do, you need to go home.
Yeah.
Because there's always something you can do. There's nothing we can do usually translates into I don't know what to do. there's always something you can do to help. I mean, even if it's just stand there and hold a hand, there's always something you can do, So.
Well, Mark, thank you so much for sharing, and thank everyone for listening. And be sure to, follow the podcast, like the podcast. If you're listening on Apple devices, make sure that you give us a 5-star rating and share it with your friends. Tell everyone to check us out. And if you know someone that would make a great guest, shoot me an email at 91what.podcast.com. And thank you again for joining us. And can't wait to talk to you again the next episode.
Do you want a home or multiple homes? If the real estate market in your area is anything like it is here, then you could be sitting on a pile of cash. But selling a home can be very overwhelming. But not if you call my friends at Freedom Venture Properties. Whether you're interested in selling your primary home, a family home, or investment property, Freedom Venture Properties makes it easy. They can buy your home in 4 easy steps, stress-free, and no need for cleanup or repairs. You just walk away with the cash in as quick as 7 days. That's right, 7 days. So go online today and get your cash offer at freedomventureproperties.com. And that's not limited to just the Chattanooga area. You can call them about a property anywhere in the United States. That's freedomventureproperties.com.
Thanks for listening to 911 What? We hope you enjoyed the show. If you have comments or suggestions, please email us at 911what.podcast.gmail. And thanks to Carlos Bail Bonding, Eric Buchanan and Associates, and Freedom Venture Properties for making this episode possible.